Session update 1.0.0.86 is now available, and the first thing you're going to notice when you load up the game is this message right here. Object dropper items have been reset in all levels and are now back in your inventory. Now, this news might be a little bit unfortunate for those that have worked really hard on DIY parks and spots, but the reason for the reset is because we added our first pass at the new object dropper, so we got a new layout, and all of the objects had to be changed in some way, so that's why we had to reset everything to make sure everything went smoothly. But you should still have everything in your inventory. So we now have everything visible in different tabs. So we have miscellaneous, we have ramps, and we have rails. You use the bumpers to change the tabs. Let's just make our way to the skate shop before I get into how it all works, because we got some new DIY objects in here for everybody. You're gonna notice at the bottom of the screen, it now has a limit of 20 instead. So we have a couple of new benches here. We got a long, narrow bench, and then we got a picnic table. There's a new shiny sloped bench we got right here. Got a nice colorful box to bank. Now I know this one's not new, but it has changed a little bit. There's no longer dirt under there. Moving on to some of the ramps. So we got the wide ramps right here. We got a smaller one, and then we got a mighty one. And we got this long flat bar. These are all the new objects for the update. That's going to be free for everybody. There are a lot more objects. There's 38 brand new DIY objects in total, but that's DLC, and I'll cover it in another video. But for anybody that doesn't want to buy the DLC, you got these new items. Again, this one's not new, it just changed a little. Now I'll get into how the object dropper actually works. So we're gonna press L1 or left bumper, as always, to open the object dropper. The right stick is gonna aim your camera, and the left stick is gonna move your camera. Up on the D-pad is gonna raise your camera up, and down on the D-pad is gonna lower your camera. When an object has the white squiggly lines only, that means you're hovered over it. And when it has green, that means that's the one that's gonna be movable. That's the one that's selected. I'm gonna press square to create a new object, and this is what's gonna bring up your inventory. I'm just gonna choose this box, so I'm gonna press X. And now you have this green and white outlined object just ready to be placed wherever you want. And when I say wherever you want, this means you can actually go through everything. There's no collision on it right now. You can set it up any way that you want. So if I wanted it to be just barely poking out of there, I can do that. But the left stick is going to move your object. The right stick is going to rotate the camera. Up on the D-pad is going to raise the object, and then down on the D-pad is going to lower the object. And what you'll notice is it's a lot easier to do up and down movements now, because there's a slight curve to how fast it moves. So it starts very slowly, and you can do micro adjustments. But if you hold it for a little bit longer, it'll go a little bit faster. So we can do some nice micro adjustments with the D-pad. However, you'll notice that it says snap selection to ground. So if I just simply press square, it snaps it right to the ground that it's above. So even on here, if I want to do this, it'll snap it right to the ground. Now, the one thing it's not going to do is it's not going to snap and follow to the angle of the ground. So if I'm above this bank and I click square, it's not going to angle it to the same angle as the bank. I know a common question is going to be, how can I get something like the plywood angled on the stairs? Actually, that worked out pretty quick. That's exactly what I was going to point out. I guess my cursor was exactly where I wanted it to be anyways. So if the little crosshair is right on the edge of the stairs and you spawn in your object, it's going to try to follow the same angle. So right there wasn't quite right. Let's adjust it a little bit more. Maybe more like the top. It's a little bit better. You might have to do some fine tuning just a little bit, but overall it's almost exact to the stairs. Just need a little bit more pitch. Lower it. And we're good. We can recall the object to our inventory just by holding a triangle. We can press X to confirm the placement, and then as soon as you do, when you move, you're going to see you still have the object selected, but one of them has been placed. If you hold the left trigger, you're going to bring up this new option. So now right stick rotates the object, and left stick will change the pitch of it, so it'll flip it. Now, it should be noted that the pitch is relative to the position of the object or the position of the camera. So if I wanted to bring that left side down to the ground, I would have to either change the position of my camera and then hold left trigger and then pitch it up like this. So if we go back, it'll be down. Or you have to change the orientation of the actual object itself. So if I rotate to face me and then push up, That'll do that, and then there we go. It does take a while to get used to how this works. It took me a little while, so give it some time. There is also an option to reset the rotation, so you hold triangle and it'll reset it. You can also cancel any rotations you just made, so if I hold L2 and then do like a little change, I can press cancel. However, if I rotate it and then let go of the trigger and then hold the trigger again, you can't cancel that movement. So it only cancels the last movement that you made while still holding L2. And if you click cancel from here, you're just going to cancel that selection and bring it back to your inventory. Or if you select an object and then move it around and then click cancel, it'll bring it right back to where it was before. However, if you go like this and then move it and then place it and then go like that, it's just going to bring it to the last location. And the last option in this menu is going to be the multi-select. So you hold right trigger and now we can select multiple objects. So if you just go over them and click X, we have all 4 of these selected. If you want to remove one, you just go to the one that you want to remove and then press X. Don't remember what it is on an Xbox, it's A. Now we have all of these selected. We can move them all as one. We can move them up, we can move them down. We can change the pitch of them. We can rotate them, snap them to the ground, and then we can just place them, and then we have all 4 just set up like that. Actually, that's pretty cool looking. Now, one thing to note about multi-selected objects and snapping them to the ground is they're not going to snap to the lowest point. They're going to snap to the middle. So just keep that in mind, that like if you have multiple objects like stacked, it's always going to snap to the middle pivot point. So you'll have to do like micro adjustments to like get it back to the ground if you want the bottom one on the ground. If you want to zoom in on the object while you have it selected, all you do is just hold right trigger, and then now you can move the camera in and out with up and down on the left stick. Then you release right trigger and you have that new camera. However, if you zoom in like right here and you want to like move it from there, as soon as you let go of right trigger, it's going to kind of like snap to the middle of the rail or the object. So it can make lining things up a little bit harder. Like I said, it takes time to get used to it. Now, I know some of you are probably going to ask, like, is it easy to snap an object to another object, like this rail to another rail, to make it longer? Unfortunately, there is no snap to object feature. You are just going to have to try to be as precise as possible to get it to line up. But remember, this is still the first pass of it. Now, going back to the main inventory menu, if you want to recall any objects, you just hover over the object you want to recall, and then you just hold trigger, not trigger, triangle. And when you want to exit out of the object dropper, all you do is just press circle. Now, you've probably noticed that there's a little shimmer to all the objects. This will actually help you figure out what object is movable in the world and not just in your inventory. All of these picnic benches right here are movable because they have the shimmer, but also you can hover this little cursor over it and it'll like turn white. When you select it, you can move it. You can also cancel that movement. Once you place it in a new location, you can't reset it to where it originally came from, so you'll have to put it back yourself. There is no reset world objects. Now, there's something that was taken out of the object dropper that I was really happy about. Before, there was this barrier that would block you from going too far away from where you opened your object dropper, but now if we select this, we can go as far as we want. So I'll just raise this up. We can go like anywhere we want in the map, and you can place it anywhere. So there is no barrier. If you wanted to go all the way over to the other island, go for it. If you want to go all the way up to the moon, you can also go for it. Gonna take a long time though, I've tried. What I like to use this feature for is like if I lower this into the ground and then raise it up, we have our own little elevator, so we can just go as high as we want. If we want to skate the top of the buildings, go for it. And I just realized I haven't done a single trick in this video yet, so there's a kickflip perk for you. And then a backside flip. Oh my god, that was brutal. Let's do it again. There we go. Now, since the object dropper did get a little revamp, some things needed to be changed. So 3 items up here in the creature park are going to be locked and only accessible during a mission, during this Ribsman mission right here. So you can't move this manual pad, you can't move this box, and you can't move this little ramp. You can only do it during this Ribsman mission, and there's a couple of other instances that this happens. I'll show you that in a little bit, but for right now, I should mention that there was a new cutscene added for this Ribsman mission, because it used to show up down here and used to have him doing the trick on this. However, in the replay, the object was all messed up because it was an old replay. If you have any replays that have an object in them from before this update, there could be some issue with it. So here I did a tray crook in the last update, but as you can see, this object is not how it should have been. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to redo your tricks if you did them on an object in the last update. Because even if I put one of these here now, it doesn't really matter, because I know that as soon as I enter the replay editor, as I go back, you can see me editing this one, and then if I go all the way back to my clip, you can see the original one is there. As soon as my old clip stops, it just goes away. And then for this mission right here, we actually removed the replay entirely because it was giving us some issues with the rail that was placed right here. So the other instances that have the objects locked, this picnic table right here is part of a mission, so it's part of Ribsman. I suggest if you ever move this during the mission, do not put it right here. Place it somewhere a little bit further, because Mark Appleyard will ask you to do a trick on this later on in the story, and if you have a bench right there, gotta make it harder. Also, this bench is locked in place because it's part of a mission over here. Same with this one, part of the same mission with Mark Appleyard. If we go down here over to this Ribsman, this barrier is locked until you start doing this Ribsman mission, and then when you put it here, it'll be locked after the mission is over. You do have some time to move it away from that area if you don't want it right after the mission is done, as long as you don't leave the map or don't restart the game. As soon as you leave the map and restart the game, it's locked until you redo the story with another like custom skater and then moved again. Same goes with the pyramid ledges. This Mark Appleyard mission where you have to move this picnic table over to here. This is locked before and after the mission is done. During the mission, you can move it all you want. Over in the China banks, there's one bench that is going to be locked in place. So you can't move this bench right here until you activate this Ribsman mission. Same goes with this barrier. Same goes for this bench in San Francisco. You won't be able to move it until you talk to this dude and he tells you to move it up here. Just figured I would go over all of those objects that you can't move until you do the missions. So spend some time with this new object dropper and get used to it a little bit before you give your feedback, but I do want to hear your feedback on it. So like, let me know what you like, what you don't like in the comments. So that's pretty much it for the object dropper. Now for some bug fixes. Remember when objects used to slowly sink into the ground every time you change the map or loaded the game? It would eventually look like this. Well, that bug has been fixed ever since we revamped the object dropper. We fixed the crash that happens if you load like a lot of replays. So if I just like keep loading replays, I shouldn't crash. Let's go to like a bunch of different ones. I don't know, and just randomly click them. But loading a bunch of replays should not crash your game. If it does, let me know. There was a bug with some missions that wouldn't give you the right amount of objects. So this one says 2, and in my inventory I should have 2. So that has been fixed. Before, it would give you the wrong amount. The next issue we tried to fix was Nate's historical challenge line at the Brooklyn Banks. I've been trying to figure this one out for a long time, a lot of testing, and I realized one common thing that a lot of people, including myself, have been doing. After the 50-50 right here, we come at an angle to this this chain, and we usually ollie from the side right here. So I opened the game in Unreal Engine and I wanted to look at the trigger zone, and sure enough, the trigger zone was more in the middle and we were popping outside of the trigger zone. So what we did was we just moved over the trigger zone just a little bit so that we were popping inside the trigger zone from that angle. And what I did was I went around to every trigger zone in this mission and made sure that they were all correct and everything was fine. I even dumbed down the mission to be like the most basic tricks, board slide, ollies, and like just that's it. And all the trigger zones for that challenge actually worked, and it popped up with those basic tricks. So it has to do with the specific tricks that are being done in this line that's like causing an issue sometimes. And we don't know why. We think it has to do with like extra inputs. So let's give it a try. I'm using manual catch and I have my custom settings on. I'm also skating regular instead of goofy because it should work in both stances. For this kickflip, actually, you don't need to do it right there. You can do it pretty much anywhere. It's a long trigger zone. Same with this one right here, the 3-flip. You don't actually have to land close to the wall. I thought you did at first, but you don't. It's a wide trigger zone. Now, this crook, should mention you should let go as soon as possible. I slipped down into no slide. It didn't register no slide, but I still got it. Hang on one second. So like usually it does register that you got into a no slide, but I don't know. My truck was really loose, so it did slip out for a reason. But what I was trying to say was make sure you always let go of the sticks before you hit the ground. Right about here, let go of the sticks. But the challenge does seem to be working. I don't know, just for reference, I popped my 3-flip here and I landed all the way over here instead of like next to the wall. Kickflip, I did it about there. You want to copy that exact area, but the trigger zone goes all the way down. The ollie, I did it from the side as I always do, and it should still be in the trigger zone. Don't bone ollie. Don't push both sticks up. You don't want to do this. Don't do that ollie. And for the backside 50-50, I landed roughly, I don't know, there. Release the sticks before you hit the ground. Same with any flip trick or any like ollie. Release the sticks as soon as you flick so you don't hold the sticks while you're landing. I don't know, this line and Welcome to Hell are the two hardest lines to get to register, and we keep adding different fixes and trying to figure out like what's going on here, but at least I was able to confirm that it works regular, it works on manual catch, and works on your custom settings. Copy all my inputs exactly, I guess. Now this isn't a bug fix, more of like a reverting back to how it was, but the fisheye, so we had a lot of complaints that the fisheye wasn't as good. We did try to get rid of some of like the pixelation, but in doing so we had to lessen how fishy it was, which didn't go over so well. So we're back to the original fisheye with a little bit less sharpening. I'll give you a quick example. This is the fisheye that's currently in the game 1.0.0.86 in this update, and this is the fisheye in the previous version 1.0.0.76. And for those that were in the Discord and saw like the new fisheye, the one with like a lot of bubble to it, that one was quite overboard and it gave like a lot of motion sickness. So what we simply did was we just reverted it back to how everyone liked it. So you guys now have your fishy back. We won't take your fish away. Moving on to the audio fixes. As always, we have a couple little things. So if you listen carefully when transitioning between different textures, you can hear the little dun-dun sound as if you're rolling over a crack. So rolling over textures now has a sound instead of just like a hard cut right to the next texture. The thud sound when you land is a little bit different. It's not as thuddy. So that's pretty much all that's been added to this update. I know there's not too much in here, but we're working on what we can when we can, so stick with us. Now there is a paid DLC that released with this update, so if you want to see all the objects that have been added and the new map, go check out this next video and I will catch you there.